I think, it's the accessibility part is the part that I think really is where the change came.
Yeah.
And the investment, right? So as many people have said, the product has always been good. There's definitely been an elevation in the amount of financial support, the amount of television spots, networks carrying games, and even tickets being sold and how they're being packaged and how people are being marketed.
Welcome to the Athletes Doing Good podcast. We are so excited to welcome Marisa Moseley today to the podcast. And she spent 3 seasons as the head coach at Boston University, her alma mater. And she had a great record there, 2019 Patriot League Coach of the Year, 40 under 40 Rising Star in women's basketball, so many wonderful things. And now head coach of the Badgers since 2021. And we are just so excited to talk about this season and all the good things that are happening with you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Well, we just finished up, the NCAA tournaments and, seeing the surge in women's basketball and women's collegiate basketball. You've been in, the sport for many, many years. What is your take on the accessibility of watching the game and the growth of the game over the past year?
I think, it's the accessibility part is the part that I think really is where the change came. And the investment, right? So as many people have said, the product has always been good. There's definitely been an elevation in the amount of financial support, the amount of television spots, networks carrying games, and even tickets being sold and how they're being packaged and how people are being marketed. And so I think all of that investment has really shifted the narrative to be like, women's basketball is booming, and it's like, yes, and it has always been really good, and there've been some really phenomenal stars out there. I think there was just a shift in priorities, and the kind of the investment piece, I think, is really what's taking it over the top. Which it's better late than never, right? And I think it's been an exciting time for sure.
I think, Caitlin Clark even said exactly what you were saying at her press conference after the game, of stating, like, women's basketball has been great for many, many years. It's not something new and all of a sudden wonderful and great. Mm-hmm. Like, it's been there for many, many years. Now we finally have the eyes on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the coolest things that, has happened is so many men and little boys who probably were not exposed or even thought to take the time to watch women's sports or to be, exposed to it. I think that's really been cool. I mean, there's obviously other little girls and women who have kind of caught fire with it too. But I think it's that next generation of boys that will become men, who will become decision makers in different points, for them to see this is the norm, or to, hear stories where little boys are like, oh, like, where's the women's game? Like, I only watch women's sports, or whatever the case may be. And so I think that that's a huge shift. That's a cultural shift. That's a societal shift that is, I think, meteoric in its own right.
What is the culture?
Talk Badger basketball.
Okay.
Go ahead, Danica.
I was just going to ask about Badger basketball and the fan base and kind of the culture at UW-Madison, and how has that been since you started in the program, and how has it kind of progressed since then?
Yeah, when I first got here, one of the kind of, I guess, approaches that I chose to take was that we've got to have the people in our community fall in love with the people first before they fell in love with the product. And so, I was out at the farmer's market and, if I was at a restaurant and whoever my, service person was, or if I went into a gas station, like I would talk to anybody and, ask them if they were women's basketball. Well, I'd ask them if they were a Badger fan first. This is the power of persuasion. Are you a Badger fan? And if you say, are you a Badger fan? Then I said, well, I coach women's basketball for the Badgers. So obviously you have to be a fan, for us too, because you can't just be, a fan of certain. Right. And so that's kind of how you would be able, and then they would be intrigued, and I would try to engage with them and, get to know people and have them feel like they're a part of what we're building. It was really cool to see the fan base continue to grow throughout, not just the first season, but like this last season that we had. We made a little run in the WNIT, and to have folks coming out and little girls and boys waiting to slap the hands of our kids and the coaches, and just so excited. To me, that's, you're making the right impression, and you're growing the game, where your feet are.
I love when you talked about kind of the pillars that you have for your basketball team, with the winning mindset, integrity, selfishness, communication, and legacy. Talk a little bit about why those pillars.
Well, I was trying to be tricky and come up and be able to use an acronym, and because I think there are so many. I had read like some places you should have 3 pillars, some places 5. Pat Summit had the definite dozen. So like there's a lot of different thoughts. But the biggest thing was, how do I make this memorable for our kids and impactful? And so I thought, for me, everything by association is helpful for me to remember. So they spell out WISC, and then our final one is legacy. But for me, like a winning mindset was not just about trying to win games, but just having a mindset to try to win in everything you're doing, try to excellence in everything you're doing, try to be the best. So if that's in the classroom, if that's in the community, if that's on the court, we're trying to be excellent in everything we do. And integrity, really having this unshakable moral compass and understanding that like once you become a Badger, then it's no longer about yourself and the decisions of how it impacts you, but how does it impact the bigger group? And selflessness, it's that we over me, right? So it's the idea that this isn't about me. And how do I make sure that I get excited for other people's success more than my own? Because if I do that, they will in turn do that for me, and that will build. And finally, the communication was like around every relationship, every successful anything is rooted in good or bad communication. And so we talk about, not just verbal communication, but your nonverbal communication, then also being an active listener. So we felt like that WISC, the winning mindset, integrity, selflessness, and communication, I felt like that would all lead to your legacy of leaving a place better than you found it.
I love that. We talk so much about legacy, here with, the different athletes that we work with, and we talk with, and the coaches of like, ultimately, when you're done playing the sport, what do you want people to say about you? What is your true legacy? It needs to be, on the court or on the field. But it also has to have a component off.
Did she freeze for you?
And who you are.
She'll come back.
Did you lose me?
We're back.
I'm back. Sorry. Just talking about legacy, and like, it obviously it's the sport that you play, but it's more than that. It's who you are. It's the impact that you've made. And I think as a coach, like you're not only a coach of basketball, but you're helping shape these young women's lives, to build them into who they are. So how rewarding is that for you?
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, that's why I got into it in the first place. I mean, I became a coach at 23. One of my players was 22. So I was, shortly removed from that world. But for me, it was, okay, how do I pay forward the impact that my coaches had on my life? And I really think that I could try to do this for other people. I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be a coach. That some people are like their parents were coaches, or that's what that wasn't my story.
Yeah.
But I do love people, and I do love helping people, and I do love trying to make an impact wherever I can go. And I feel like this is actually so cool today. So there's a Dunkin' Donuts on the way to work, and I wasn't gonna stop. I had a banana, but I kind of had the taste for a muffin, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go. And so I pulled through, and this particular Dunkin' Donuts has had a lot of turnover with staff. Once you go to a place, you kind of pick up on the people and whatever.
Yeah.
And they're not really efficient. They haven't been like very efficient. I'm like, this is supposed to be like fast food. It's not very fast. Anyway, so these are all the things that as a coach, a lot of times I'm thinking, how could I coach these people to be better at this?
Yeah.
And a lot of it too was like the customer service was very curt a lot of times. So anyway, so the last couple times I went yesterday too, because I was running late. And I was like, I'm starving, whatever. So that was the other thing. I was like, do I really want to go to Dunkin' twice 2 days in a row? But I was like, whatever. Sure. Anyway, I digress. So I pull in, and it was the same guy who was there the day before and I recognized his voice, and he was like the most chipper person. And I was like, this is really, I need to say something to him when I pull up, because it's noticeably different than the other folks. So when I pull around, I was like, hey, I just have to tell you that you have the greatest disposition. Like, you're just so positive, and it's noticeable. And I just wanted to thank you for that. And he goes, oh my God, I'm going to start crying. And he starts crying. And he's like, this has been like a really hard day so far. And just thank you so much for saying that. You just made my whole day. And I like got the goosies, and I was just like, it's things like that where like that could be part of your legacy. That could be part of your impact, that how you don't know. Every day we walk around, we have no idea what people are carrying around. And the way that you interact with them, you have an opportunity to, make someone's day better or make it worse, right? It's a choice. We talk to our players about that all the time. You get to choose the way that you approach the day. This idea of being moody is not like you weren't born moody. That's a choice. Like, I'm just moody. No, that's not true. Like, you chose to be moody, or you choose to be in mood. And so, it was just, that was like a really cool thing when you talk about kind of the impact. And so for me, it's like, okay, how do you now translate that to what you're doing with these young 18 to 22-year-olds every day? And in turn, how do you allow them to impact your life? So sorry, that was a long-winded way.
I love that. And like, what a great reminder of, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It's you're taking the time to do that. Think of the impact that it made on him. And it made his day, and his day is going to be better because of that. And so I think like that's a fantastic reminder. I love that. Yeah. What are some of the things that you do with your team within the community?
Well, I think the probably the biggest impact that we have made, on a one individual, is we're part of Team Impact. And that is an organization based out of Boston. We got connected with it actually first with my old assistant, or old associate head coach, who now is the head coach at Babson, Kate Barnoski. But basically it matches kids who have life altering or terminal illnesses, life-threatening, life-altering, or terminal illnesses with teams. So they'll never get to play a sport, but they get drafted. They sign a national letter of intent with us. We have a press conference for them. And then they're like an honorary member of your team. And so Emma Morgan is our teammate. And she's 11, and she has just been a wonderful addition. She has a locker in our locker room. She'll come in after games, and she loves the song Apple Bottom Jeans. So
I love it.
Christopher. So she'll, get down with the kids. She comes to the games. She sits behind the bench. She's just so excited. And her family has really become like a part of our Badger family. So that's one really big impact. And it's been cool to see each year the new players kind of adopting the relationship with her as well. We've gone and the second harvest there's a lot of food insecurity here in Madison. And so that was something that I wanted our kids to be able to serve. And so we went and bagged, I think it was like 3,000 pounds of rice to be able to help the community. And there's nothing glamorous about that. There was no cameras there. That's not why. And I want them to know that's not why you do good to like make yourself feel better about it. What is that movie? My Cousin Vinny, when she's like, babe, we're good doers. It's like, no, we don't need to do that.
Everybody about it.
Yeah. Like if you have to tell them like the good that you did. Now I know I just told the story about Dunkin' Donuts, but that was just to give an example. I could have walked away with that story and not told anyone the rest of the day and been happy.
But that one was a great reminder. I like that one.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think that our kids have worked with organizations like Black Girl Magic, which is awesome here in Madison as well. The Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters. So there's a lot of ways that we've tried to connect with the community, and I want them to know. We actually last year we went to Ronald McDonald House and we cooked. Made dinner for the families of the patients who are at the Children's Hospital, and so it's a beautiful space. And we actually, I should say, I took one of their ideas that they had, which was to fill someone's bucket. And so we made buckets for each kid, and you would write notes and just put in like, hey, I thought you were great today, or keep your head up, or, whatever, just filling people's buckets to kind of remind them like, this is, I'm thinking about you, but it doesn't have to necessarily be that I sit down and have a long conversation with you.
Yeah.
But I think that the fact that we, made this Italian dinner from scratch was really a cool thing, and there was a lot of teamwork, and then went and played with the kids after. So there's quite a bit of things that I think I want to remind them how incredibly fortunate they are to be in the position that they're in, and that to whom much is given, much is required.
So
Isn't
true.
it amazing to see when they're impacted? Like,
yes.
they're going somewhere with the thought that they're going to impact others, but it's that moment, that we see so often, like they are impacted. Like this is going to stay with them forever.
Yeah. And I think especially if you go in like, how kids do sometimes, like I have to do this thing, instead of like when they walk out and it was like, wow, that was actually like, I really enjoyed that, or that gave me a different perspective, and really perspective is everything, right?
Without a doubt.
Well, you guys are certainly doing so much good on the court with one of your best finishes in 11 years, off the court with all of this stuff that you're doing in the community. It's so phenomenal. We always have to ask our guests, finally, what does athletes doing good mean to you?
Ooh. Well, I think it kind of goes back to what I just said before about like, to whom much is given, much is required. There are so many people who would love to have the opportunity to play a sport. Then the next layer of that is to play a sport, in high school, collegiately, and then at the pro level. There are so many people who think that they're coaches, who would love to be coaches, who think they should tell us what to do all the time. No, but I think it's a really, when you kind of like parse back all of the layers, there's a select group of people who get to do what we do. And so because of that, I don't think that you can just go through as a taker. I think that you absolutely have to be a giver. And I grew up in church, so it's like give and it'll come back to you. And so to me, athletes doing good is really using the platform that you have, and the access to resources, but a lot of times it's the access to people, right? It's to people listening. It's to it's to a broader audience, maybe that aren't just athletes. You never know who's kind of popping in, and you have one opportunity to make that impression. How do you leave them feeling better than when they left, and also feeling like, you know what, this is bigger than basketball, or this is bigger than whatever sport it is, that this is really about doing well and doing better for people who just happen to also play a sport.
Love that. Well, thank you for taking the time. We certainly appreciate it. We hope your new offices are done soon.
Yeah,
so that you can home stretch that you can do that. But
although this is perfectly placed W. I
did very well.
Yeah, I didn't even mean to frame it like that, but I did work at ESPN for 10 months, so maybe that was just like,
natural instinct. But thank you so much.
All right, thank you all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.